Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about time and reincarnation. Or rather, how time itself doesn't exist. Now, the idea of time, the idea that there is a progression through moments, that one moment precedes another and another follows another. This is false. It's very easy to prove this, because in an infinity, which we know exists, it's impossible for one moment to follow another. It's impossible for there to be a timeline travelling through this infinity, because there is no end and there's no beginning. So without an end and a beginning, one moment cannot precede or follow another. There can be no lineation to infinity. And because moments are not really taking their place on some sort of line directed towards an end, a goal, affinity. For this reason, there is no past or future as such, but rather simply just a present. And all moments exist within the same, not a timeline as such, but in the same plane. That all of these moments exist. Simply, they just exist. One moment does not cease to exist, and then exist again in the future. This moment you just experienced did not just simply exist in the past. But the reason why we have this illusion of finity, this illusion of finity within the infinity, the illusion of an end, of a goal, is because we are the ones who have this sort of affinity within us. Because we die, we end. And because we are conscious of our own end, we create this affinity around us, this timeline. We experience one moment, and that moment leaves an impression on us. Then we experience another moment, and it creates the illusion that the moment we experienced just now was somehow following after the moment previously, when in reality that's just the order in which we experienced it. See, we are like vessels, or rather our souls have vessels, which is us, and we travel through existence, let's say, living whatever way we live, and we experience moments which are eternal. And these moments leave impressions on us. And we remember these impressions, even perhaps in another life. We can remember eternal impressions. But furthermore, there's another type of moment. A finite moment. And these are the moments that we can create ourselves. But first I have to tell you about creation. Because time was not created. If it was created, it could not be infinite. And we know that existence is infinite. But creation obviously does exist. But whenever creation exists, what is created itself must be temporary or finite. You cannot create something eternal. And so for this reason, whenever life forms, through manipulation of their environment, and through exercise of their will to power, create moments. These moments are finite moments. The best way to explain it would be that there are gaps between the eternal moments. There are gaps between the various facets of time, or not of time, but of the cyclicism of existence. And within these gaps, these spaces, new moments, new finite moments, can be created. And so the concept of a timeline can come to fruition, but only in the context of finity. And so that timeline can't be applied to the infinite cycles, as I explained in I think one of my first videos about the cyclicism of time, about the eternal recurrence. And so, when you, the vessel, once more being an eternal moment, being part of that eternal macrocosm, a reflection of the macrocosm. When you return, you will remember, you'll come to experience again the moments, the finite moments, which were created in the past by, say, in your previous life, or the previous lives of others who are directly associated to you by the soul. And there a remembrance will occur. And the closer to eternal concepts that the moments you create are, the longer they'll last in terms of other carnations. When another body comes, and another body comes in the context of those eternal moments, and between those eternal moments there will be more finite moments, if in their previous life they led a life which reflected the macrocosm more perfectly, and they created moments which reflected those eternal moments more perfectly. And that is how progression and growth can happen in reincarnation. Because each time you come into this world, you come into this world with more experiences, more moments to experience. That is what I mean when I add that distinction rather, between the will and fate. Because the fatefulness which we have allows us to create within the context of fatedness. Of course, there are certain things which are fated, which cannot be changed, which even the gods can't change. But within that, there exists space for creation and becoming. And that is why all of these people who say, well, if determination or predestination exist, then what's the point in us doing anything? What's the point in us exercising our will? What's the point in trying? Isn't this another form of nihilism? If everything happens, then what's the point in preparing for another life if we know we're just going to be born again? But see, it doesn't exactly work like that. This will tie into a concept I'll have to talk about in another video, which is about the ego and the self, and what exactly these concepts mean. Because defining who you are is a very important part of this struggle. But really, these people are wrong when they talk about these things, because there is room for becoming, and without the will and without a desire to struggle and to overcome, you will never become. And without becoming, your being cannot pass on to another life form, another birth, let's say, another incarnation. And so there goes with the passage of time. Of course, as I explained, this is rather an infinite cycle more than anything. I explained in that previous video about the eternal recurrence, how there can be two real, what I refer to as timelines for time. But of course it isn't time, I was just explaining it in that context. Two sort of cycles for infinity, one existing within the other. The infinity of everything that is possible, or feasibly possible. And then, outside of the laws which we can apply in our environment, there must also exist another infinity. The infinity of the impossible. And so the only way to reconcile these two infinities is by drawing a circle. That is how time is a circle, and cyclical. So yes, that's just a point I wanted to make about time. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I forgot. No, I don't think so.